Hey gamers, welcome back to the channel. Today in 7 Deadly Sins Origin, we're going to be taking a look at Diane. We're going to be taking a look at her from a free-to-play perspective. I have completed the story. I'm now in the part of the game that I call the farming sim, where we're going and we're farming to improve our gear, workbench, building up to world level 4, all that stuff. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to do even after completing the story, but we're going to go over how I have her built, my thoughts on the best way to build her, at least when we're talking about the different types of weapons. We'll even get into the gear a little bit also, again, from a free-to-play perspective and only a few weeks in. All right, everybody, there's a lot to discuss here, so let's get into it. All right, and welcome back. Let's go ahead and just jump into the game. I really hope you all are having as much fun in this game as I am. Like I said, I've completed the story. I really have enjoyed moving through the story. Typically, I fast forward through a lot of the story, but I did not this time. I did actually pay attention to the story. I'm not running through this as quick as I can. I am casually moving through it. I am playing this as a free-to-play player, and I'm just kind of moving along at a pretty good pace. I think it's at a decent pace. Like I said, the game's been out, what, 2-3 weeks, and I've already completed the story, and I'm into the farming. I'm working towards building up to a world level 4 and the hell levels and things like that. What I want to do is put out some videos looking at this game and these characters from a free-to-play perspective, and just offer some advice on some things that have been working really well for me. Taking a look at the weapons really do change up the playstyle of the character and offer quite a bit of variety. The armor, when we take a look at the armor is more of a natural progression. It's a little bit more linear. I know that it gets a little bit more detailed than that, but really what you're looking for is you're looking for better gear, better stats, and bonuses that match your character's abilities. And then obviously we just want to move up mastery potential and all that stuff. But the weapons is what really changes a lot. So let's talk about Diane's weapons here. I did start with the axe. It is slow. You can build up your burst decently, and you've got some decent damage. I think if you want to play around with that a little bit and see if it works for you, you do have a stun with Giant Girl here. I just don't find it super effective. After playing around with that for a while and talking with some people on stream, I really moved on over to the gauntlet. Now, if you watch a previous video that I had put out, I do recommend the gauntlet, but I have been swapping back and forth between the gauntlet and the nunchucks. And the reason for that, talking about the gauntlet first, this is a very quick way. Inflicts additional damage equal to 10% of defense. You also get passion. Passion helps increase your burst gauge. Now, just by swapping between your normal attacks and your special attacks, you are building up her burst her burst gauge very, very quickly. She is, I don't have a character on my team that builds up the burst gauge as quickly as she does. I hear Jericho, who I don't have, builds up that burst gauge very, very quickly as well. But for her, she's the one that I have, and she does build that gauge up very quickly just by doing her attacks. You're going to swap between her normal attacks and her special attacks. As soon as she gets that burst gauge full and goes into burst, you're going to get a shield, which is awesome. It protects whichever character that you're playing. But if you have a darkness character, that's very, very important because darkness doesn't build its own gauge. It has to corrupt an existing gauge. So you're going to use her to build up that gauge. Then you're going to swap in your Meliodas. And that's really the two characters that I swap between, depending on the battle. We'll talk about that here in just a second. But those are mainly the two characters that I swap between. The other two characters on my team, I don't even use that often. But I do use a third when I use nunchucks. So gauntlets, I really, really like. I prefer gauntlets when there's a battle that I know very well and I make few mistakes on. And I don't need the healing because nunchucks give you a healing, and we'll talk about that here in a second as well. But with the shield and with Meliodas coming in, I just need to swap between those two characters, and I can take bosses down very, very quickly. So when I'm doing boss farming, I mainly use the gauntlets. Now the nunchucks, the cool thing about the nunchucks is the healing. The problem with the nunchucks is that it does not build up your burst bar very quickly at all. So this is where I need a third character. So instead of swapping between two characters, I'll be swapping between three. Also, I use this mainly for battles where I'm pushing content, or maybe I'm going into a boss battle that I know I'm going to make mistakes on, or boss battle maybe I'm not familiar with and I need to learn the mechanics. The healing is really, really great for that. So in areas where I know I'm not going to make a lot of mistakes, I'm going to use my gauntlet so I can build up my burst gauge very, very quickly. In ones where I know I'm going to make some mistakes or I'm pushing content, I'm going to use the nunchucks so I can get the healing. So the thing with that, like I said, it doesn't build your burst gauge very quickly at all. So what you're going to do is you're going to start off with the nunchucks. You're going to hit until you get your shield. That shield's going to protect whoever you're currently playing. And then your healing. Once your shield and your healing kick in, then I'm going to swap to Tristan. I use Tristan because he can build his burst gauge fairly quickly. Once I build that burst gauge and I'm ready to go, I'm going to swap in with Meliodas because then I'm going to corrupt that. I get my darkness burst, and then I'm going to do my damage there. Once I'm done with that, I'll switch back to Diane, get my shield and healing back, and then rinse and repeat. Again, this works really well when you're trying to push content. I do also find that I take bosses down slower this way. However, I do stay at full health. Again, the healing is very, very good, and the shield that you get is very good as well. So where you need to build that up, and you don't need to hit the burst, obviously, to get your shield and your healing, you just got to hit a certain number of times. I think it's like 20 hits or something like that. Yeah, 20 attacks right here. That's going to kick in. But with your gauntlets, you're building your burst gauge so quickly. By the time you got your shield, you got your burst gauge, and then you're just going to Meliodas, and you're going back between the two. In fact, the boss battle that I've been playing around here, the first time I went through that with the nunchucks, it took me 5 minutes to take the boss down. When I went through the gauntlets, it took me 2 minutes to take the boss down. So it does go quicker with the gauntlets because you're getting more burst quicker and you're doing much more damage. However, the nunchucks is a little bit safer when you're going again in and pushing content or unfamiliar content, things like that. So that's my suggestion. I really suggest both of them because depending on what you're going to do and what boss or what battle you're going into, I think both of these are very beneficial. But if you know your stuff, the gauntlets are the best because you're going to build that burst gauge very, very quickly. So those are your weapons. That's probably the biggest piece there. When we're talking about armor, right now I'm just working on my engraved armor. Eventually what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to take a look at gear that's going to help her earth attacks, right? So if I go out here and into, my dungeons, no, my bosses. I think it's my bosses here. Yeah, this stuff here. This one right here. This is a really good set, this Life Crystal Combat set, because 2 pieces is going to give you increased earth attack. And then you also get this defense here as well. Plus this tag gauge is restored by 50 and perseverance increases by 4 for 20 seconds. This is a really good set for her. So this is what I'm going to be pushing for. Once I get to that point. I'm a little bit off from where it's suggesting for this, but as soon as I can start pushing this, I'm going to start doing that. But that's where I have her right now. Those are my suggestions as far as the gear mastery. I focused mainly on getting the 1, 2s, and 3s, so that's where I am here with her gauntlets, and this is where I am right now with her nunchucks. I'm not doing much here. I don't want to get any of these outside ones right here for this. I do want to get, here, look at it. I'm just going to do that because again, by increasing these, whether you're using that weapon or not, is going to increase your power level, which is going to come in very handy. These outside ones do not, unless it's an equipped weapon. If it's a weapon that you're using, then you get the benefits to your power level from there. And then potential, obviously we know that we want to build that up as we get those dupes and things like that. Other ways for you to get your potential to increase that. And the skins are just the different armors that we're working towards. I'm working towards this one now for her. But yeah, so that's Diane, having a lot of fun with her. The team that I'm using right now is Tristan and Meliodas, Diane, and Manny. And again, I don't even really use Manny. I'll use Meliodas and Diane when I have Diane's gauntlets on. When I have her nunchucks, I use Tristan, Meliodas, and Diane. So that's what I had for you. Very curious. What do you think of the game so far? What do you think of Diane? Any thoughts about any of the suggestions that I have there? And if you're a fan of the axe, I'd love to hear more about it. All right, everybody, that is what I have for you. I've got more coming your way with other character videos. If there's other type of feedback that you want to see in these kinds of videos, please let me know. Just leave it the suggestions in the comment section below. All right, everybody, as always, I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch the video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button and share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you next time.